In this edition of Southern Newsweek, a Dunedin hospital donation drive to support residents in Tonga has been a great success. Property development work has resumed in Aversham after a phosphorus scare earlier last week. And the Chiefs rugby team flew into Queenstown on Monday afternoon, where they'll be based for the next month. Kia ora, I'm Melissa Barton. A Dunedin hospital donation drive to support residents in Tonga has been a great success. A large number of donations have come in from hospital wards and members of the public, resulting in a good range of supplies to assist our Pacifica neighbours.
More than 30 boxes filled with much-needed items ready to be sent overseas. The Dunedin Tongan community celebrated the week's collection efforts at Dunedin Hospital yesterday, with piles of donations ready to help Tongan communities.
Overwhelming support and willingness to donate to help not only our family here, but also to feel better and feel relieved with the stress that they've been under for for the whole week last week, but knowing that they have something to offer back to support their families in Tonga.
Tonga is still recovering from the eruption and tsunami last month. The local collection drive saw a range of canned food, rice, toiletries and general goods donated, along with more than $1,600 in cash, all aimed at helping those impacted by the disaster.
And obviously what we see today is the outcome of the love and support that's been shown or demonstrated by the Southern District Health Board staff.
Hospital patients and staff led the contributions for the donation drive, supported by other groups in the community.
It was really humbling and heartfelt gratitude and appreciation for what they have put in place to support our Dunedin Tongan community.
Donations are still being collected to support Tonga. In Dunedin, the South today.
Work has resumed on a property development in Aversham after a phosphorus scare earlier last week. A digger working on the site hit a slab of the volatile chemical on Wednesday, which just happened to be the same day developers released plans for 24 new townhouses to be built there.
The launch of this property development in Dunedin's David Street almost started with a bang last week after a digger uncovered a slab of phosphorus on Wednesday. With the volatile chemical now cleared away, New Zealand Property Solutions Director Denise Casey is releasing 24 freehold townhouses to be sold off the plans, with prices starting at just over $500,000, a figure she says will appeal to many first home buyers.
It's fantastic to be able to offer a brand new dwelling to that first home buyer market. And they can achieve a $10,000 grant. Casey
says the 1, 2 and 3 bedroom homes will also appeal to other demographics as well.
There's huge interest from either couples without children and also that empty nester retiree market who really want brand new, warm, low maintenance, modern living. They want to be in town in this location.
But if you want to buy one, you'd better be quick, because the company sold the first stage of 12 houses in double quick time last September.
Stage 1 went under offer within 48 hours of release. The demand was tremendous for this type of dwelling. So stage 2 comprises of the balance of homes in the development, the final 24.
It's hoped the construction of the first stage will be completed by August this year and a second stage finished by May next year. In Dunedin, the South today.
A study by Dunedin researchers has found tobacco smoke and cannabis smoke have different effects on human lungs. Otago University professor Bob Hancock led a team of researchers who found while many people have smoked both tobacco and cannabis, the damage is different from each product.
Smoking tobacco has long been known to be bad for your health. Now researchers on the long-running Dunedin study have looked into the impacts of smoking cannabis. They measured lung function throughout adult life up to age 45 in more than 1,000 people. Study lead Professor Bob Hancock says it's hard to tell which is worse for lungs, cannabis or tobacco.
That's a really difficult question to answer. I think it's fair to say there's almost nothing as bad for your lungs as smoking tobacco. But we really don't understand the long-term consequences of heavy cannabis use. As respiratory doctors, we do recognise that some people have lungs which are almost completely destroyed. And this seems to be a finding we only see amongst cannabis users. And if you are one of those people, there really is nothing we can do to repair those lungs. All we can do is try and stop the damage from getting worse.
The study is believed to have the world's most complete data on lifetime cannabis use and lung function, with 3/4 of study members having used cannabis at some stage. It found smoking cannabis also leads to lung damage, but in a different way to tobacco.
So the cannabis smokers tended to have more hyperinflation. They had a greater resistance to breathing, whereas they appear to have less actual lung obstruction, which is what we tend to see with tobacco smokers.
It's been difficult to research the effects of cannabis on the lungs because the drug remains illegal in most parts of the world, and until recently it was assumed cannabis would have similar effects to tobacco.
We looked at 11 different measures of lung function. We found that there were distinct differences in the patterns of lung function changes seen amongst cannabis smokers compared to tobacco smokers.
He says given the widespread use of cannabis globally and the trend towards decriminalisation, understanding its effects on our respiratory system is a priority. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The Chiefs rugby team flew into Queenstown on Monday afternoon, where they'll be based for the next month, along with 5 other New Zealand-based Super Rugby Pacific teams. To assist with COVID precautions, the Chiefs arrived on a special charter flight into Queenstown Airport.
The Chiefs rugby team flew into Queenstown yesterday afternoon, where they'll be based for the next month, along with 5 other New Zealand-based Super Rugby Pacific teams. To assist with COVID precautions, the Chiefs arrived on a special charter flight into Queenstown Airport. Players and coaches from Moana Pacifica also flew into the resort town. The new team is made up of players from various Pacific Island nations. It's understood the Hurricanes, Blues and Crusaders also arrived over the weekend, with the Highlanders set to bus in over today. A few pre-season games will be played this week, with the full Super Rugby competition getting underway on February the 18th, when Moana Pacifica play the Blues at Dunedin's Forsyth Bar Stadium. Teams will travel to Dunedin by bus for all-night games, with Queenstown set to host day games at the Wakatipu Rugby Club, kicking off between the Blues and the Hurricanes at the end of the month. In Queenstown, the South Today.
Like many in the arts sector, actor Mirasali Tanuka has a day job, working in Waste Cove in Dunedin. But after having speaking roles in a couple of films, he's keen for more, especially after the joy of surprising family members while watching a movie together recently.
Dunedin actor Mirasali Tanuka was one of a number of local actors and extras who got a small taste of Hollywood Down Under as part of the Netflix film The Royal Treatment. He was lucky enough to get a speaking role in the production. A job he says was a blast, and getting to see more of himself on screen than he was expecting.
It's good to be on a huge production like that, and the part was really cool. When I got the role, I just thought it was going to be, a couple of lines here and there, and that was really going to be it. And it was, but they actually put a little bit more in than I expected.
He now calls Dunedin home after spending time in Auckland and Wellington. Like other cast and crew members, he got an email letting him know when the movie was being launched online. He decided to gather his family together to watch the premiere at home. But only one other person in the room knew what was about to pop up on screen.
I didn't tell them I was in it, so they're watching and then go, oh. Hey, Dad. So that's always a nice surprise. Nah. So, yeah, it's always good, yeah. Obviously the wife knew, but yeah.
Tanuka has an agent in Auckland who advises him on roles, but says Dunedin's Pacific Island community is a strong network, which is another way he's found acting roles. He praised the production for having an inclusive approach to casting people from a range of cultures.
See, I'm full Fijian and represent that Pacifica community, and it was just really cool to see on this shoot how much of the Pacifica creative community came out, We're sort of trying to depict multicultural New Zealand, and they did a really good job of that in this movie, of trying to get everyone who's the skin tone or a bit darker or whatever to come out and audition.
He played a customs agent in the movie Adrift, shot in Fiji in 2017, but says the royal treatment was his biggest part so far. And the story has hit a chord with viewers, the film becoming Netflix's most watched film around the globe in the first week of release. Marasiali Tanoka is hoping his Dunedin performance might even attract the attention of a few Hollywood directors and casting agents. In Dunedin, The South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, a Dunedin City Councillor wants to see parts of State Highway 1 in a tunnel under central Dunedin, and a Dunedin-based international relations expert is expressing concern over the killing of the head of ISIS. Welcome back. A Dunedin City Councillor wants to see parts of State Highway 1 buried in central Dunedin, with the installation of a roading tunnel. Jim O'Malley believes putting some of the main arterial route underground would be a better way of keeping traffic flowing and cheaper than other proposals.
Imagine all this traffic being moved underground. That's the vision of Dunedin City Councillor Jim O'Malley, chairman of the DCC's Infrastructure Services Committee.
Well, the idea really is trying to balance the livability objectives of the city and making this area a quiet, livable space, and also achieving the outcomes for flow of traffic.
O'Malley's been working on the idea behind the scenes with a focus group, including experts in the field. He believes constructing a tunnel in central Dunedin could be the best way of keeping the city's traffic flowing. And he's laying the blame for the current state of the state highway firmly on Waka Kotahi, the New Zealand Transport Agency.
My feeling is that the reason we are having to choose between these two designs is because there's actually a systemic underinvestment in Dunedin from central government and Waka Kotahi.
The price tag could be about $400 million, based on the costs of other dig and bury projects. NZTA's board has already endorsed a much more conservative program, which would retain Dunedin's one-way system in an upgraded form at an estimated cost of just over $100 million. But O'Malley insists the status quo is inadequate and wants a future-proofed solution. And he doesn't believe projects like a ring road are the answer.
That's not really it's not a feasible option. So the only option really is it stays here where it is. And I would like us to take a 100-year horizon on this. If we'd started 50 years ago, 1970, when this was started, we'd have 2 or 3 of these built by now. And I would say that's what you do. You're not going to bury the whole thing, but there's going to be certain places where you'll underground it and certain places where it'll be above.
Central government has already pushed back against Councillor O'Malley's suggestion. Transport Minister Michael Wood claims this government's already spent $400 million more than the previous national government spent on southern regional roads.
That answer says it all. 1.1 billion spread over the regions, spoken as if it's another country, and clearly by saying that we're not a metro in their eyes because we're part of the regions.
He says the problem is the government only sees cities in terms of population rather than geographic spread, and believes they need to adjust the way they define the city for the future. In Dunedin, The South Today.
Last week, the head of ISIS was killed after being targeted in a special forces raid by American troops. US President Joe Biden is hailing the militant terrorist leader's death. However, a Dunedin-based international relations expert is expressing concern.
There's only wreckage left of the 3rd floor of this building in Syria after an explosion blew it apart, killing the leader of Islamic State, Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurashi. But it's a move international relations expert Professor Robert Patman doesn't believe will solve anything.
It tends not to demoralise the organisations who lose their leaders, but, if you like, stiffens their resolve.
Senior US officials say the IS leader blew himself up as the US operation got underway in the northwest of the country. Professor Patman says it's America doing the same old thing, which hasn't worked in the 20 years since 9/11, as terrorism is not a military problem.
It's a political challenge where you have to discredit the ideas that these extremists represent, and therefore killing their leaders doesn't actually discredit their ideas. If anything, it boosts them.
He's disappointed with the Biden administration and doesn't believe its approach is dealing with the root cause in the Middle East. Professor Patman says it seems hypocritical for a country which claims to follow a rules-based system to do such a thing.
Killing leaders, we know in the last 2 decades, doesn't get rid of the problem. Al-Qaeda hasn't disappeared. It's lost virtually all its leadership. Islamic State has lost all its leadership. It hasn't disappeared.
He admits New Zealanders can at times think issues like this don't affect us. But he likens last night's events to the Christchurch mosque shootings.
You know, because of our geographical position, Darryl, we tend sometimes to assume that we're immune from events. I think Christchurch was a wake-up call. We're not.
He says the Christchurch call began a discussion with the goal of eliminating issues of inequality and racism which are used by extremists to get traction. He believes New Zealand's counter-terrorism work since the events in Christchurch could be a lesson for the US as well. In Dunedin, the South Today.
While snowsport fans across the world watched Wanaka local Zoe Sadinsky-Synnott win a gold medal at the Winter Olympics, there were none prouder than her parents. They say Zoe showed promise as a champion snowboarder when she was a teenager, after just a few days trying out the sport in America.
A strong group of supporters watched the action on the big screen at the Winter Olympics fan zone in Wanaka as 20-year-old local girl Zoe Sadinsky-Synnott won New Zealand's first ever Winter Olympics gold medal by nailing the slopestyle in Beijing.
Even making it to the Olympics, it means so much to me to be back here and then to come away with gold after my performance in Pyeongchang in slopestyle. Just means so much to me and I'm so stoked.
Proudest of the fans were Zoe's parents, Robin and Sean, who've supported her career.
It was pretty nerve-wracking, definitely on the edge of our seats for me.
Sean says Zoe showed promise in snowboarding after just a few days of trying out the sport in the US while on a winter holiday along with her older brother Dylan.
She'd just learnt to snowboard and he was a little bit ahead of the curve of her. She'd been snowboarding for 2 or 3 days, and there was a comp that Dylan wanted to go in, a Kings and Queens or Knights and Queens or something of the rails, and she decided to go in, and lo and behold, I think there were only 2 female competitors, but she won the event and won a phone, and I think she realised that you could do this and you get paid to do it.
And it's not over yet for Zoe. She's a contender to win another gold in the upcoming Big Air, an Olympic event she won bronze in 4 years ago, although her dad is aiming to control his emotions.
Her ideal outcome would be for her to podium and ideally, I guess, win another gold medal. I'm trying not to go for the two-peat on my own interviews, reaction after the event.
The 2-day Big Air competition is set to start in Beijing next Monday. In Wanaka, the South Today.
The buildings are open, the staff are ready, but as always with tamariki, it was the children who made Takakura Wakatipu or Karara come alive on opening day. After more than a year of preparations, Queenstown's newest primary school opened its doors to 93 foundation pupils, ranging from new entrants through to year 8.
All present and correct. The 93 pupils of Takakura Wakatipu o Kaurau are enjoying their new school and are jazzed to be learning in the new facility. Principal Tanya McNamara says teachers and parents were blown away too.
This is so exciting, just incredible. We've spent a year doing lots of planning and research into opening the best possible school for our learners, and actually had this day arrive now. And just to see the excitement on the children and their parents this morning was very exciting at drop-off time.
There was a reduced fanfare thanks to COVID-19, but she says it was the sight and sounds of children playing which made it real. Deputy Principal Lara Kirk says they've come a long way from planning to opening day this week.
Feels pretty good. It's been an amazing journey for us so far, and yeah, it's pretty awesome to see the young people here enjoying what we've spent a long time thinking about and looking at paper plans for. So yeah, it's pretty amazing to be open.
Opening day began with a dawn blessing before parents began arriving with children about 8 a.m. There are 7 teaching staff and 93 pupils on opening day. Stage 1 of the school build has capacity for 450 pupils, and there's room to expand to 950. The principal hopes the school can soon become a hub for the community. In Queenstown, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, the Otago Business School is welcoming a new trading room to its setup, which it believes will help give their students an edge. And a Southland animal group wants to raise awareness about the importance of having cats desexed. Welcome back. The Otago Business School is welcoming a new trading room to its setup, which it believes will help give their students an edge. The recently renovated room will allow Otago students to analyse real-time market data using a popular terminal.
A new trading room which could be the envy of the country.
This will be the best lab in the country.
The Otago Business School has created a new trading room lab for its students to thrive in with the help of sponsorship from BNZ and NZX. The lab features Bloomberg terminals, a computer software system which monitors real-time financial data, allowing students to use current equipment and information from the industry.
You know, it's a wonderful coming together of people at a certain time and alumni with the university and a vision to develop this trading room here.
Alongside up-to-date data and research, the terminals will let people to place trades on the market.
Once people learn, if we're able to get the word out that trading's opening from here for the day, I think it'd be quite an exciting little celebration for people to come together from around town to watch the opening of the trading.
Everything is going well. All the room needs now is a few students at its desks.
The lab is running, it's ready to go, and we would look to be teaching classes in here shortly. The only thing missing, as I say, is the bell at the moment.
Students are expected to use the trading room when university classes start back in person. In Dunedin, the South Today.
An ice hockey game played in honour of a young woman who died tragically in Gore 2 years ago looks set to become an annual event. Two teams battled it out on the ice over the weekend for the Nicola Henare Memorial Ice Hockey Cup.
Playing in memory of a former ice hockey teammate, the Gore Grizzlies took to the ice on Sunday against a team called the Bars for a special memorial game in honour of Nicola Henare. The 19-year-old died with her partner Sean Hattrell 2 years ago when the car they were passengers in hit a power pole near Mataura. Nicola's mother Tania Henare organised a game in her daughter's memory last year, and there's hopes it'll be staged as an annual event.
Last year we played an inaugural ice hockey game between her family, who have all at one stage played for New Zealand, Canterbury or Southern Region.
This year's memorial game coincided with an ice hockey tournament, allowing other players to help make up numbers.
This year we had a couple of players from Canterbury that were down already playing for a tournament that was being held here over the weekend.
Nicola was well known among ice hockey players, playing for the Gore Grizzlies for about 10 years, and she also represented New Zealand in the game, along with her 3 brothers and other family members. The Bars team, made up of Nicola's relatives and friends, beat the Gore Grizzlies 9-5 to win this beautifully carved Nicola Henare Memorial Ice Hockey Cup.
Thank you to the Gore Club, who Nicola and most of my children have been a part of, for putting together a really good team, and it was a really close game.
Nicola's mother says her daughter loved the sport, and the annual memorial game was a bittersweet opportunity to remember her. In Gore, the South Today.
A Southland animal group wants to raise awareness about the importance of having cats desexed. The Edendale branch of Forever Homes says it's cruel for pet owners to avoid the process with their cats, as it can lead to kittens suffering a slow, painful death.
For Pussycat's sake. Little Archie is about 8 months old. It's a miracle he survived. He was found at 8 weeks old, nearer death than life, very malnourished and dehydrated. And while he's a success story, Edendale Forever Homes manager Loana Mesman says he's one of the lucky ones.
Kittens of this age can't fend for themselves in the wild. You know, we get a couple of cold days and they've got no food and they've got no mother, they die, and it's cruel, and they've got a heart and they feel pain.
These kittens were found on a dairy farm with their mother, who was friendly but abandoned. Mesman says people get in contact with them regularly, with all manner of excuses as to why they haven't had their animal desexed, including they couldn't find the cat at the appropriate time or the child was sick.
People just need to be aware that their actions as pet owners, get them desexed. It prevents these unwanted litters being abandoned, dumped on the sides of the roads, and suffering horrible, cruel deaths.
The Gore SPCA closed in 2020, and she admits Gore and Matilda have a growing problem with abandoned cats and kittens, with some of the blame attributed to COVID-19.
Currently the kitten problem is probably more the fact that they're being dumped. It's a lack of desexing in the whole Southland area, probably throughout New Zealand, to be honest.
She says they feel like they're constantly the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff and are banging their heads against a wall because nobody wants to be held accountable. In Gore, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube to catch our news bulletins on demand. Nō reira, kia pai te pou, ka kite anō.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.